Hey guys, today we are going to be making a recipe that I'm actually pretty excited about. We're going to be making a high protein, low fat, lower carb jerky made out of vital wheat gluten, and I am super excited about this recipe. I love jerkies, I love the primal strips, I love all kinds of vegan jerkies, but they're not easy for me to find around here, and they're kind of pricey, so I usually have to order them online, but they're great for traveling. And today, this weekend, I've been working on a recipe, and I think I finally got it nailed last night, and this is what we are making. This is one serving. It has about 23, I haven't actually run the exact macros yet, but it has about 23 grams of protein, 1 gram-ish of fat, and maybe 6 grams of carbs or so, maybe 8, 6 or 8 grams of carbs. And it's great for travel, doesn't need to be refrigerated, super chewy, super salty, really easily adjustable recipe. So, things you're going to need: vital wheat gluten, water, soy sauce, brown sugar, garlic powder, onion powder, chili powder, black pepper, and liquid smoke. And if you have a dehydrator, this might be a little bit easier. It's probably gonna come out a little bit better, but I'm also going to be doing it in the oven. So if you don't have a dehydrator, you can still do this at home. Okay, so I have my oven set to my lowest setting, which on mine is 170 degrees. And I also have a pot of boiling water going here. Better to get that started before you do the recipe, otherwise you're gonna have to wait for a big pot of water to boil. So I have 1 cup or 120 grams of vital wheat gluten and 3/4 of a cup of water. And I am just gonna mix that together. Okay, and you're gonna have to use your hands. Make sure you have clean hands to make the dough. Okay, on a cutting board, I have this lump of dough, and I am going to form it into a loose ball. It's very elasticy. That's totally okay. And we are going to cut it into quarters. Okay, so each one of these is going to be a serving. So it's okay if they're not perfect, because we're going to slice them up past this as well. Make them into loose balls and drop them in the pot of boiling water. And keep an eye on them. You're going to let them boil for about 3 minutes and pull them back out. Okay, it's been 3 minutes. I'm going to take my tongs and pull them out and set them on the cutting board. So we have these 4 lumps, and we are going to let them sit for about 5 minutes until they are just cool enough to handle, because we're going to slice them after that. Keep the pot of water boiling. Okay, these are still hot, but they are cool enough to work with. So what we're gonna do is, with a serrated bread knife, you are going to make thin slices of each one. And the reason we boil these first is because if you try to make thin slices when it's completely raw, it's very difficult. So the slices, this is a really good one. The slices should be about this thick, I would say 1/8 of an inch thick, and the length of them doesn't really matter, okay? So they do not have to be perfect. Jerky is never perfect looking. It's kind of one of the things that's fun about it. And I'm gonna do these 1 serving at a time, just because I like to keep my servings separated so that I can keep track of the macros. Alternatively, you could weigh this whole recipe when it's done and divide it by 4 as well. So this is 1 serving sliced, and I'm going to put it back into the pot of boiling water for about 5 minutes. And again, I'm gonna do these 1 at a time, so I'll show them all at the end. But we're just dropping them back in the pot here. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes. I'm gonna take a colander and my tongs, and I'm gonna pull the pieces out of the pot and strain them. And that's all the pieces. Shake the excess water out. Set these to the side, and we're gonna repeat this with the other 3 balls here. Okay, so I repeated that with all 4 balls, and this is what we have. We have 4 little piles of seitan strips. Each one of those is a serving. You're just gonna set those aside until they are cool enough to handle. So 3 of them are, this one's still a little bit hot. So set those aside and start making your marinade. So there's a lot of wiggle room with this marinade. I just worked on like a classic salty, sweet, spicy type of a marinade, but I have so many ideas of doing like straight barbecue or adding more sriracha to it, doing just all kinds of different flavors here. But this is just a basic one, and it's quite salty. So if you don't like super salty food, don't coat the pieces very heavily, coat them lightly, because it's gonna shrink up and get more concentrated. So just bear that in mind. I like a ton of flavor, so I'm gonna coat mine fairly generously. So there's 1 cup of soy sauce, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 1.5 tablespoons each garlic powder and onion powder, 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and 1 tablespoon of liquid smoke, and you're gonna whisk that all together. Okay, so for the pieces that are going into the oven, I have a tray that I'm gonna spray with a little bit of cooking spray. And for the dehydrator, I have a big Excalibur dehydrator. I'm gonna use the Teflon sheets here, okay? So I'll do 1 serving in the oven just so we can see how it turns out. So here is the important part. We're gonna take each one of these pieces and coat it in the marinade and lay it down. So here is 1 serving on the sheet, and I'm gonna put it in the oven. Remix it in between servings because some of the spices will settle. And this you don't need to coat with any spray. Gonna take my trays, and I put each serving on its own tray so that I don't get it confused. Put the door on, and I put it on the highest setting, which on mine is 160, and I'm gonna let it go for 2 hours. Same thing with the oven, 2 hours. We're gonna flip the pieces halfway through. And just so you know, I only used about half the marinade, so you can put this in a container, put it in the fridge, or you can make another batch of the seitan dough and repeat the process until you use up all of the marinade. But this keeps really well in the fridge for a couple weeks.
Okay, so we are going to flip these. It's been 1 hour. They're getting a little jerky-ish. And they have about 1 hour left. And these are actually coming out pretty good too. They feel about the same, which I thought they wouldn't, but it's only 10 degrees higher than the dehydrator, so I guess it makes sense. They're pretty close. All right, pop them back in for another hour. All right, and there you have it. That is the finished jerky, and each serving is about 1.6 ounces, and you can store it in the fridge or in Ziploc baggies.